Right now, somewhere deep beneath the ocean, there are tens of thousands of steel cargo boxes lying silently on the dark sea floor. Some of these lost containers hold brand new sneakers. Some hold expensive furniture, while others contain entirely intact luxury cars. Remarkably, at least one of these lost boxes held 28,000 rubber ducks, which are surprisingly still washing up on global beaches today. The global shipping industry calmly claims that only a few hundred cargo containers accidentally fall overboard into the deep ocean each year. However, experienced ocean scientists strongly argue that the real number of lost containers could easily be 20 times higher than reported. Shockingly, until this very year of 2026, no international maritime law legally required any company to officially count these losses. This is the fascinating and untold story of where the world's lost, forgotten cargo actually goes after vanishing into the abyss. Roughly 250 million containers cross the massive oceans every single year, and almost all of them safely arrive. We emphasize almost, because the unpredictable ocean has a few dangerous tricks that no modern engineer has ever fully solved yet. The very first threat is completely obvious to everyone: brutal storms throwing waves in the North Pacific that tower over 15 meters. These monstrous waves, taller than a 4-story building, relentlessly slam into these massive cargo ships for days at a time. But the single most dangerous threat to these massive transport vessels actually has a much stranger, unfamiliar name: parametric rolling. Under very specific and unusual wave conditions, a massive container ship suddenly begins to rock violently from side to side. Instead of slowly settling down, each progressive roll dangerously feeds the next one, making the heavy ship sway even more violently. Within mere minutes, a massive ship can be swinging 30 or even 40 degrees, like a giant metronome on the water. Imagine a floating structure the size of 4 football fields swinging wildly, creating completely enormous physical forces at the top stacks. Heavy metal lashings suddenly snap, strong twist locks completely shear apart, and entire towers of stacked cargo begin to dangerous peel. Hundreds of massive steel boxes at a time completely slide off the wet deck and violently crash into the roaring sea. That is exactly what catastrophically happened in November 2020, when a ship called the One Apus hit severe weather. In the middle of the vast Pacific Ocean, during a single terrifying night, this vessel lost nearly 1,800 containers. It was just one single ship trapped in one storm, resulting in one of the largest cargo losses in maritime history. And here is the dark, unsettling part: that the global commercial shipping lines absolutely do not advertise to the public. Sometimes the violent ocean storm itself is not the real culprit to blame for these massive, catastrophic cargo deck collapses. Every single container that gets loaded onto a ship has a strictly declared weight written clearly on its official paperwork. According to safety regulations, heavy boxes are always supposed to go on the bottom of the stack, light ones on top. But busy shipping lines cannot physically open and inspect thousands of sealed boxes, so they must entirely trust the paperwork. And the unsettling truth is that the official paperwork very frequently lies to save money or bypass strictly shipping regulations. One detailed inspection study shockingly found that nearly 70% of containers declared as dangerous goods had serious documentation problems. So picture a tall stack where a light container at the very top secretly weighs 3 times what it officially claims. In perfectly calm seas, absolutely nothing happens. But in a violent storm, that stack suddenly becomes an upside-down tower. So a container goes over the side. What happens in the next 60 seconds? The answer depends entirely on what is inside. A heavy box full of steel pipes drops straight down, often sinking 4 kilometers to hit the sea floor at highway speeds. But a completely sealed container full of light cargo, like clothes or toys, does something far more sinister and highly dangerous. Because these boxes are weather-tight, a buoyant container simply drifts just at or slightly below the dark ocean waterline. It becomes a massive 20-ton steel ram, completely invisible at night, invisible in rough seas, and entirely invisible on standard radar. Sailors have a chilling name for these floating hazards: ghost containers. For small vessels, they are an absolute worst nightmare scenario. Yachts crossing vast oceans have been mysteriously found with their hulls violently split completely open, with absolutely no logical explanation left. These heavy floating containers can smoothly drift for days or even weeks, silently riding the dark ocean currents for hundreds of kilometers. They stay afloat until seawater finally finds a way inside, and the box begins its incredibly long, dark trip to the bottom. But this is where the story gets beautifully strange. Once a container reaches the deep sea floor, it does not just disappear. In 2004, scientists found a lost container sitting perfectly on the seabed inside the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary. They made a highly unusual decision. They deliberately left it right there on the dark mud and watched it for several years. Over time, local deep-sea life began treating it like an artificial reef, providing a hard surface in a world of soft mud. New marine species slowly moved in, successfully colonizing a massive steel island that will sit quietly there for many centuries to come. Multiply that exact scenario by every container ever lost, and you get a dark seabed quietly dotted with accidental, unplanned human monuments. But sometimes the lost cargo refuses to stay comfortably on the bottom. Sometimes the ocean decides to bring it all back. In 1992, a massive cargo box completely broke open, and thousands of yellow plastic rubber ducks surprisingly set sail across oceans. Some ambitious ducks rode freezing currents directly through the Arctic and eventually turned up on Atlantic beaches on the planet's other side. Oceanographers quickly realized they had been handed a completely free, highly accidental science experiment to map how the entire global ocean moves. It amazingly happened again in 1997, when a container spilled nearly 5 million pieces of Lego into the sea near England. Which brings us directly to the ultimate question. How many giant containers actually fall into the deep ocean every single year? The official shipping industry reports incredibly low numbers, claiming they lost exactly 576 massive steel containers in the year 2024. But independent American ocean agencies have clearly estimated that the actual, completely true number could realistically be as high as 10,000. For several decades, reporting these massive oceanic losses was essentially completely voluntary for the highly secretive global commercial shipping lines. A heavy container slipping quietly off a wet deck at night in international waters might never be officially reported to anyone. There is zero visible debris field, absolutely no official investigation, and the massive ocean simply keeps the incredibly dark secret entirely safe. But starting this year in 2026, strict new international maritime rules finally make reporting these massive cargo losses entirely legally mandatory. The completely mysterious black box of ocean shipping is opening, and we may soon learn the truly staggering real numbers involved. The next time you are standing on a beach, carefully look down. That weathered plastic might just be a distant ocean traveler. Falling overboard is strange, but abandoned cargo often vanishes into completely mysterious, blind auction warehouses. That is our fascinating next true story.